They're not heartless. They're not incapable of showing emotion. They're not cold, distant, or numb by choice. They're just exhausted. Exhausted from pouring their soul into people who barely noticed they were there. Exhausted from screaming in silent rooms. Exhausted from bleeding for those who walked away unscathed. You see, their silence isn't emptiness. It's what's left when screams never worked. It's not peace. It's the echo of battles no one witnessed. It's the final language of someone who begged to be heard and was ignored too many times. Carl Jung once said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power." But what happens when love becomes a weapon? When the very thing meant to heal you is used to control you, confuse you, manipulate you? What happens when the person you trusted with your heart uses it against you today? There are people walking around with smiles on their faces, but battlegrounds in their hearts. They wake up every morning with invisible scars, memories they never chose, emotions they never wanted, pain they never deserved. They carry their trauma like a second skin. You can't see it, but they feel its weight. It's exhausting. It's suffocating. This video isn't just about pain. It's about understanding the psychology of the quiet ones, the ones who say nothing, who never complain, who smile so you'll never see them cry. This is about the psychology of those who heal with their own blood people, who keep saving others while no one saves them. And maybe, just maybe, by diving into their minds, their silence, their survival, you'll start to understand a part of yourself that no one's ever put into words. Because this isn't just about them. It's about you, your hidden wounds, your untold stories, your quiet breakdowns, your brave smiles. So stay with us. Don't skip ahead. What you hear today might finally explain what your heart has never known how to say. This video might give your pain a voice. This video might be the first time you feel seen. Let's begin. Chapter 1. They're not cold. They're exhausted from bleeding. You look at them and think they've gone cold, distant, emotionless. You think they don't care anymore. But the truth is, they cared too much. They cared until it broke them. What you see as silence was once a vibrant expression. What you call walls were once open doors. But something happened. Something shattered them from the inside. And they were never the same. They don't push you away because they hate you. They retreat because they don't trust their heart to survive another betrayal. They're not avoiding love. They're avoiding its aftermath. Because love, when it goes wrong, doesn't just hurt. It haunts. It rewires the nervous system. It creates a constant state of high alert where even kindness feels suspicious and safety feels temporary. Carl Jung said, "Pain is the currency the soul pays for consciousness, and some souls out there, my friend, have paid too much. They've spent too much emotion, felt too much, and now they feel they have nothing left to give. The man who keeps everything inside, he wasn't born that way. He used to open up. He loved fiercely, trusted deeply, believed fully. And that version of him was torn apart. Now he walks through life with a hardened heart and wary eyes, not because he wants to, but because he has to. The woman who seems emotionally unavailable. Don't judge her distance. She stayed too long in a place that destroyed every piece of her. She gave her loyalty to someone who used it as a weapon. Now she builds walls not to keep others out, but to keep herself safe inside. This isn't coldness, it's survival. It's what a soul looks like when it's had enough. Silence isn't rudeness anymore, it's armor. It's how people protect what's left of their heart after being emotionally drained by those they loved most. Their guardedness isn't ego, it's evidence. Evidence that pain doesn't just happen, it reshapes you. It turns warmth into calculation, openness into measured risk. It turns people into ghosts while they were still alive. You might say, she's changed. No, she's survived. You might say, he's heartless. No, he's hurting in silence. When someone stops talking, it doesn't mean they have nothing to say. It means they've said it all before, and nothing changed. They seem distant, but that distance is what it takes to keep breathing after being emotionally suffocated. So the next time someone seems emotionally off, don't judge them. They might be the strongest person in the room, just exhausted from having to prove it. Chapter 2. The Armor. You mistake for personality. They didn't choose this way of living. That distant tone, those guarded eyes, the strange emotional disconnect you feel around them. You think it's their personality. It's not. It's protection. You think they don't care. No. They care so deeply it scares them. So they hide it behind sarcasm, bluntness, or a wall of silence they've perfected over years. Because life taught them a brutal truth when you show your emotions. People treat them as a target, Jung said. When pain is not processed, it doesn't go away. It becomes behavior. And that's exactly what happened. They never had a safe space to fall apart. They were never allowed to be weak. So they adapted. They swallowed their screams, buried their tears, and carried on like nothing happened. But trauma doesn't just vanish, it transforms. It hides. It disguises itself as actions, reactions, habits, personality. They start pushing people away. They stop explaining their feelings because every time they opened up, they were ignored, judged, or used. And after a while, their nervous system says, no more. The anger you see, it's not aggression, it's a cry for boundaries. The emotional distance, it's not coldness, it's a desperate attempt to avoid being hurt again. Those short answers, that averted gaze. That's someone who learned to protect themselves by pushing others away first. They've made emotional detachment a full-time lifestyle. Why? Because when you feel everything too deeply for too long, your only chance of survival is to feel nothing at all. Numbness becomes the only peace. What was once a temporary reaction to pain becomes a long-term coping mechanism. And soon, that coping mechanism becomes a false identity. Now people say, she's just rude, he's too proud. She's so cold, he doesn't care. But they're wrong. You're not seeing the full picture. You're seeing scars, not the story behind them. You're seeing symptoms, not the source. You see someone who's changed. I see someone who's adapted. You see attitude. I see accumulated survival behavior. You see a vibe. I see a wound that never got a chance to speak. And that wound is still there, quietly bleeding, covered by layers of fake smiles, polite small talk, and calculated distance. They wear their independence like a badge, but deep down, they crave connection. They want to be held, understood, loved for who they are, not who they became to survive. So the next time you meet someone who seems too tough, don't try to break them. Try to understand what broke them. Because beneath that cold exterior is a soul screaming, "Will someone love me without making me suffer for it?" And maybe, just maybe, if you choose to listen instead of judge, you'll realize they were never difficult. They were just hurt, and they're exhausted from bleeding for people who never carried a bandage. Chapter 3. Complexes, the wounds that still speak. Ever wonder why someone snaps over something small? Why a slight delay in your text sparks an emotional storm? Why a harmless tone suddenly triggers withdrawal, silence, or chaos? It's not because they're unstable or dramatic. It's because of what Carl Jung called complexes, powerful emotional structures, buried deep in the psyche. Built not from logic, but from pain that was never allowed to heal. A complex is the emotional shadow of the past, still haunting the present. A child who was constantly rejected, ignored, or made to feel unworthy grows into an adult who's always emotionally on guard. So when someone replies late, uses a neutral tone, or seems briefly unenthusiastic, it feels familiar. It feels like that old rejection, just wearing a new face. They're not overreacting. Their nervous system is responding exactly as it was trained to, because the original wound never healed. It just adapted. It got quieter, but it never left. That's why emotional trauma is so complex. It doesn't scream like physical pain. It whispers. It shows up as overthinking, people-pleasing, trust issues, or that aching voice saying, "Something's wrong, even if I don't know what." A complex isn't just a thought, it's a reflex, an involuntary trigger, like a scar in your mind that still hurts when touched. You don't always see it, but you feel it every time someone gets too close to that scarred emotion. You call them oversensitive. No, their pain just got smarter. It learned to hide in reactions. It became part of their personality. It built a defense system so fast and automatic that sometimes even they don't know why they're triggered. Imagine growing up feeling unloved, unseen, unworthy. Now imagine trying to date, make friends, or build trust when every small action feels like a threat. That's a complex. It's trauma with a memory. It's pain that doesn't leave it just learned a new language over reactions. So when someone responds too strongly, don't mock them. Don't roll your eyes. Don't call them weak. Beneath that reaction is a wound screaming, "Please don't abandon me like they did. Please don't reject me like before. Please don't confirm what I've always feared, that I'm not enough. You're not weak for reacting like that. Your pain just remembers better than your ego does." That's the power of a complex. It overrides logic, maturity, even intelligence. It doesn't care how old you are. It cares how wounded you still are. But here's the truth: once you become aware of your complexes, you can stop them from hijacking your life. When you listen to your triggers instead of fighting them, you start healing the parts of yourself no one ever asked about. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, pause, breathe, and remember, you're not falling apart. You're carrying pain that's finally asking to be heard. Chapter 4. When trust becomes a threat. Trust is a beautiful word until it becomes your greatest fear. until your heart tastes betrayal so deep that even kindness feels like a setup. Trusting someone after trauma isn't a sign of weakness, it's a battle. It's waking up every day and choosing to lower your sword, even when your body's braced for an ambush. For someone who's been hurt, love doesn't feel comforting anymore. It feels like risk. They remember how it started last time. Warm words, safe touches, gentle promises, then silence, lies, abandonment. The brain doesn't forget pain, especially emotional pain. Even when the new person is genuine, loyal, safe, the subconscious doesn't care. It doesn't see the new face, it sees the old pattern. So when things start feeling too good, the alarms go off, because last time things felt too good, right before the heart broke, right before the soul shattered and never fully healed. What happens? They test you. They pull away, not because they don't want you to stay, but to see if you'll stay when they show you their broken pieces. Will you love me when I'm not making it easy? They don't push you away because they hate you. They push to see if you'll fight for their fragments. They cancel plans, act cold, say things they don't mean. Why? Because deep down, they're terrified of falling again, trusting again, being wrong again. They're not playing games. They're watching patterns, tracking tones, responses, your distance, looking for any sign this will end like last time. You might think they're overreacting. No, they're over-remembering. Emotional trauma doesn't leave bruises on the body. It leaves blueprints on the soul. And every "I love you now" sounds like a question. Do you mean it? Or are you just saying it until you leave? If you love someone who's been deeply hurt, understand this. Their trust isn't a door you walk through. It's a wall you climb with patience, consistency, actions that match words. They don't want perfection. They want safety. They want reassurance, not once, but over and over until their nervous system believes what their heart wants to. So if they push you away, don't panic. Don't take it personally. It's not rejection. It's frightened armor. And if you truly want to love someone healing from pain, you have to be more than a lover. You have to be a safe space, a shelter, a steady presence in a world that keeps shifting. Because for someone who's been broken, love doesn't sound like "I'm here." It sounds like "I'm still here," even when it gets hard. Chapter 5. Persona. The mask that becomes skin. Some people live their lives like warriors head high, back straight, smiling even when their world's on fire. They speak clearly, walk like nothing touches them. But let me tell you a heartbreaking truth that's not strength. It's camouflage. It's survival. Carl Jung called it the persona, the mask we wear to face the world. Not because we're fake, but because life taught us being real is dangerous. Behind every perfect smile, every polished "I'm fine," there's a storm quietly begging someone to look deeper. The more someone suffered, the more perfect their mask becomes. It's not an act, it's muscle memory. It's how they learned to move through a world that never gave them space to break. They don't show emotion not because they don't feel it, but because every time they did, they were punished, judged, mocked, abandoned. So now they hide behind calm. Because vulnerability doesn't feel honest anymore. It feels exposed. and exposure feels dangerous. They became strong because no one let them be weak. They became funny because humor was the only thing that didn't scare people away. They became the responsible one because chaos at home forced them to grow up too fast. And over time, that role, that image, that mask isn't something they wear anymore. It's their skin. Now they don't even know where the mask ends and they begin. The world applauds it. You're so strong. You're so calm. Nothing ever bothers you. But inside, they're screaming. I wish someone would see I'm not okay. I wish I didn't have to wear this mask just to be loved. You call them too quiet, too private, too closed off. But what you don't get is they used to open up. They used to trust, to share their heart, and the world crushed it. Now they protect themselves the only way they know how, through silence. Control, the illusion of strength. Their silence isn't arrogance. It's protection from a world that punished them for feeling. So the next time you see someone who seems detached, don't assume they don't care. Don't call them cold. Ask yourself, how did they survive to become so guarded? Because sometimes the strongest people in the room are the ones who've gotten really good at hiding their scars. Chapter 6. The Curse of Too Much Empathy. Have you ever met someone who feels too much? They walk into a room and instantly sense who's hurting, even behind fake smiles. They notice shifts in tone, catch the slightest change in energy. They carry everyone's burdens like it's second nature. You might think, what an angel. But the truth is darker. They're not angels. Their wounded soul never learned to bear its own pain. So now they carry yours. People who've been deeply hurt don't always harden. They often soften, becoming so sensitive to pain that even a stranger's sadness can ruin their day. They're the ones checking on everyone else, while no one checks on them. They stay up late giving advice while silently drowning in emotions they never voice. Here's the paradox. They become healers, not because they're healed, but because they're still bleeding quietly. They've mastered keeping others together while falling apart behind closed doors. They're the kids who were never asked, "Are you okay?" So now they ask everyone they meet. They know what it's like to be emotionally abandoned. So they become the emotional anchor for others. But that anchoring comes at the cost of their own peace. Empathy becomes a curse when you feel everything, but don't know how to release anything. So they absorb it, bottle it, take on others' trauma, and carry it like their own. You think they're strong? No, they're exhausted. They're the emotional sponge of every room, soaking up pain they didn't cause while hiding pain they never processed. They care too much because no one cared for them. That's the cycle. That's the hidden root of over-empathy. It's not born from peace. It's born from emotional starvation. And over time, unchecked empathy can become self-destruction in disguise. Because when you're always there for others, but no one's there for you, you start forgetting your own needs. You start thinking love is only earned through self-sacrifice. So if you're one of those people, the feelers, the fixers, the healers, the overthinkers who cry for others more than themselves, know this: you deserve love too. Not just for what you give, but for who you are beneath it all. Empathy is powerful, but unbalanced empathy is a silent curse. It's time to start healing the healer. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. no matter how deeply you feel. Chapter 7. Loving with one foot. Out the door. Love feels different when your heart's been broken too many times. It's not flowers and butterflies, late-night calls, or Instagram quotes. It's hesitation. It's overthinking. It's trying to believe in connection again while carrying the rubble of the last one. For a wounded soul, love isn't soft and sweet. It's heavy, like holding a glass heart that's already shattered twice. And you're terrified it'll crack again just for trusting someone's warmth. They don't fall in love easily, even when they feel it. They hesitate not because you did anything wrong, but because someone before you broke everything just right. They remember it too well, the safety of love, how it started with ease and ended in confusion, forever turned to goodbye overnight. So now, even if they care, they love with one foot out the door. Carl Jung said, "True love begins where projection ends." But projection happens when pain isn't healed, when wounds are still raw beneath the surface, when the heart starts seeing ghosts of the past on present faces. So now, the slightest delay in your text feels like abandonment. A shift in your tone feels like a storm coming. Your silence feels like the beginning of the end. They don't love you less. They love you with all they have left. But they're also protecting the part of themselves that didn't survive last time. Because the last time they trusted, they lost themselves in the process and swore never to trust again. This love is real, but cautious. It's trying to bloom on soil that still remembers drought. They apologize too much, doubt themselves, pull away to see if you'll chase, not because they want games, but because they need to believe they're not alone this time. That this love won't bring back the pain they swore never to feel again. Most people miss this. They're not afraid of love. They're afraid of what love did to them before. So they build escape routes in their heart, little exit plans in case things go wrong. And when you finally get close, they wonder, should I trust this? Or is this just another lesson waiting to break me? They want to believe in love. They want to stay. But part of them is always half gone, just in case you're like the others. If you love someone like this, be gentle but firm. Don't try to tear down their walls. Show them they're safe inside. Because one day, if they finally feel safe, if they stop waiting for the collapse, they'll give their all. And when they do, you'll have the most loyal heart you've ever known. Chapter 8. Strength that wasn't a choice. Some people are strong, but not the kind of strength that comes from gym sessions, motivational books, or morning routines. No, their strength was forced. It was forged in darkness, built from abandonment, loss, betrayal, silence. They never had anyone to catch them, so they learned to fall without breaking. They never had anyone to lean on, so they became their own shelter. They don't have the luxury of falling apart because if they do, everything around them would too. This strength isn't loud or flashy. It doesn't post to Instagram or demand attention. It doesn't wear a cape. It just shows up, carries pain quietly, and smiles so no one has to worry. They become the strong one in everyone's life, the one people call when things fall apart. The one who shows up even when their own world's crumbling. The listener, the helper, the fixer. Because they were never allowed to ask for help themselves. But here's the dark side of that strength over time. It hardens. It turns to stone. They forget how to ask for help because every time they did before, they were ignored or punished. They forget how to cry because crying used to bring shame, blame, or guilt. They forget how to soften because softening cost them too much. So now they walk through life with quiet endurance, saying, "I'm fine," even when they're breaking. Saying, "It's nothing," even when it's everything. You think they feel nothing, they feel too much. But they've trained themselves to bury every emotion because weakness was never safe. You call them strong. But that strength came at a cost. It cost them connection, softness, the ability to fall into someone's arms and say, "I'm not okay," because no one ever held them when they weren't. They don't break. That's the problem. They forgot how. And that kind of strength isn't a superpower, it's a burden. Because when you always have to be strong, you forget how to be human. The world claps for them. Look how well they handle it. What a warrior. But no one asks, what did it cost? No one sees the tears they swallowed, the breakdowns they silenced, the nights they stayed up pulling themselves together because no one else ever did. They've been strong so long that even love feels foreign. Comfort feels suspicious. Softness feels dangerous. Because strength became their only language of survival. And that's the quiet tragedy. They seem unshakable, but inside, they're exhausted from always being strong, from pretending they don't need help, from never being able to rest their soul on someone else's shoulder. If you meet someone like this, don't worship their strength. See the story behind it. See the child who grew up too fast, the adult who was never allowed to fall apart. And if they let you see their weakness, don't look away, because showing vulnerability is the bravest thing they know. Chapter 9. The Prison of Overthinking. Some people don't live in the present. They live in their minds. Their body's there. But their thoughts are racing at 100 miles an hour, replaying every conversation, what they said, what you said, what you didn't say. Even the silence between words becomes a puzzle they can't solve. Why? Because emotions hurt them before. So now thinking feels safer. Thinking is structure. Thinking is control. Overthinking is their last defense against the chaos of feelings. They don't trust peace because the last time they felt peace, it turned to pain overnight. They're not oversensitive. They're just too used to how fast things can fall apart. So they scan everything for danger, even love, even kindness. They wonder, did I say too much? Too little? Should I have stayed quiet? Not because they're insecure, but because they've been blamed, ignored, or misunderstood for things they never meant. Overthinking isn't weakness, it's self-protection. It's how they stay safe when they don't know who to trust. They try to predict pain before it hits again. They're not indecisive. They're scared of making the same mistake twice. So if someone overthinks around you, don't mock them. Don't just say, relax. Give them consistency, space, safety. Because when their mind finally rests, their heart will come out of hiding. Final chapter. Healing isn't loud. It's subtle. Healing doesn't come with trumpets. It doesn't announce itself. It's not always peaceful or positive. Sometimes healing is so quiet that even the person healing doesn't notice at first. Sometimes it's sending a text instead of deleting it. Letting someone hug you without pulling away. Saying, "I need help," without guilt or shame. It's not about forgetting the past. It's about the past no longer bleeding. It's feeling the same trigger, but choosing a different response. Healing is messy, painful, brave, and no, you don't have to rip off your armor in one day. Just stop kneading it inch by inch. Healing starts not by becoming invincible, but by being honest enough to say, "I'm not okay, but I'm trying." If you see yourself in this, if even one chapter felt like someone wrote your silence into words, don't run. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're just a soul remembering who you were before pain taught you to hide. Now do one thing: share this with someone who needs to hear it, because maybe, just maybe, they're not cold either. They're just exhausted from hurting in silence and pretending it's fine. And if no one's told you lately, you're allowed to heal. You're allowed to soften again. You're allowed to outgrow the pain that tried to define you. You've made it this far. Don't stop now.